Hi, it's Robbie from Southern California. This is how I have my coffee. I sit here, and just moments ago, I put the bird seed out and I feed the birds, and then they all start coming in little by little. They hear me. I want to talk today about gardening and our pest control and pests that we're all dealing with as we sit and watch the birds, which are considered by many of you pests. I figured it would be better for you to see the birds instead of me, because what do you need to see me for? Now, I feed the birds, and some people have said you bring in the birds, they're going to eat your vegetables. Other people say if you feed the birds, they won't eat your vegetables, they won't eat your plants, they won't eat seedlings. Here's the thing. If we have birds around in our gardens and we don't feed them, but you are trying to grow greenery, they're going to come in and look around, whether it's seed eaters or insect eaters. And you know I talk about how important it is to bring the insect eaters in. Oh, here they all come, because they're the ones that are going to help us in the garden naturally. We do not in any way use pesticides. I do not use neem oil. Anything that will kill an insect will kill good and bad insects, and then could be detrimental to some of the other critters that eat those insects. So it's a chain reaction. It doesn't matter what you use. It may be safe for us, but it's not going to be safe for other critters. So we just simply do not use any type of pesticide. I think if I really wanted to use something, maybe for whitefly or aphids, maybe a little bit of dish soap and water on my hand. I've done that with small plants in the house, and then rinse it off, and that gets rid of everything. And that's dish soap. And that's just, it mixed with water, and just put a little bit on your hand and rub it on. That, what it does is it suffocates the insects that are on there, and then it kills them right away, and then you can rinse them off. But I don't want to just talk about birds, because so many of us have a lot of issues, and it's not birds. It could be different rodents, it could be rabbits and skunks and raccoons. We all are going to have different things come and venture into our garden. Now, with that, we have to decide what it is. Now, like with me, I live up in the city. I actually live in the city, but just in the hills above the city. So here we've got everything, though we had far more when I first moved here years ago, back in the 80s. Oh my goodness, all kinds of snakes. We had rosy boas up here, and king snakes and gopher snakes, racers, just you name it, we had it. We had badgers, we had road runners, we had so many things like foxes, silver at the time, as well as the red foxes. And we had different types of weasels, which a lot of them are gone. They were native. They've been taken out by what we have here as coyotes. Anything that's ground dwelling was really decimated by them, because there's so many coyotes now. So what we deal with are coyotes that really don't get into my garden. We do have the occasional raccoon, though the raccoons have moved into the city because there's more food for them there. So they're not really up here as much. There's only a few because some people have trapped them and let them go around here. And then eventually they'll die out if they don't find enough food. We still have possums, which also don't bother my garden too much. Skunks, but you know what? I love the skunks we have. They venture into the garden, and guess what they're eating? Snails, slugs. They love that stuff, and guess what? I love getting rid of that. And then, of course, the rabbits, which all we have to do is put a container on a chair, elevate it, and the rabbits won't bother it. Other rodents, you know, with the long tails, they can get into a lot of stuff, and those are the ones we're going to have to deal with mainly. So as I was saying here, I deal with all kinds of critters, along with the birds and insects and everything else, where let's say other family members I know that don't live all that far in the city, they're not dealing with rabbits. Very few rabbits are there. So everybody's going to deal with different things in their garden. And this is what you're going to have to analyze as gardening comes. If you're new at it, you'll find out as you garden. Maybe the critters that are in your yard won't bother your garden. Maybe they've got enough food supply somewhere else where they're just going to kind of hide out and visit and go on their merry way, which would be good if that happened. Maybe you're not going to have any problems at all. Or maybe you will start to have issues. Gophers, we have gophers, but gophers are an easy fix. Let's go over some of the animals you could have. And then I'm also going to read through all your questions and comments and give my opinion and allow everybody else to come in who want to underneath and give their opinion, suggestions, and ideas. Gophers are a big issue here in the hills. Now, there's certain places gophers don't want to hang out. They don't like hanging out if somebody's got a horse corral because the pounding makes them leave. It's like somebody on top of your roof of your house hitting it with a hammer all the time. So usually the gophers will move out of the way so they don't have to listen to the pounding or the vibration. So we have gophers. We don't have any horses here. Though my neighbors do, and they don't have gophers, but we do have gophers here. If there's certain things that the gophers want, then they're going to come in and decimate plants. They just will. They eat the roots. That's what they want, the tender, new, fresh roots. And I'll tell you, I've lost my share of many trees over the years. When you're planting new trees, that's when they seem to attack them more than anything. So I've had my persimmons, my fig trees, all of those wiped out when they were new and young. They were only like 4 or 5 feet tall, had a nice new root system, and boom, in a matter of within a year, one day the tree is just toppled over and there's no roots. Now you can fix that with new trees. You can plant them in a container where, let's say you take a lightweight plastic container, I have done this, with holes, slits and holes, and you can drop that in the ground and plant your trees that way. By the time the tree starts to leave the container and bust through, if it's dropped into the ground, it's got a better root system, and usually the gophers won't bother those. Wire baskets are another thing. If you can get a nice large wire basket, sometimes the ones from Dollar Tree will work. It will take years for that to break down, but they can send their roots out of there and eventually they'll stretch that wire basket and it will corrode naturally into the ground where you can start pulling bits and pieces out. That is a big help. And that will keep gophers out. And I'm sure there's other ways and means of keeping them out. Again, it will depend on the tree and what you're planting, because there are a lot of things they just don't want to touch. I do know they like fig trees. When it comes to gardening, easy. All you have to do is lift your garden off the ground. They will not come out of the ground to attack your garden. So that's why I started gardening a lot on chairs. I could find chairs for free. People got rid of them. They were giving off this white off these white chairs, and I would paint them, and I've got chairs that are over 20 years old painted just the one time and going strong, and I'm still gardening on that. So if you can elevate your garden, that alone will get rid of gophers. You're done. That's a good fix. Remember, we're only talking about food that you're going to grow for yourself. You can deal with flowers and other things and bushes other ways. Rabbits, same thing. Get it off the ground and you are good to go. The rabbits generally don't go higher than about 3 feet. So if anything above that, they're generally not going in. I have found that a lot of squirrels and rats will go into chairs once in a while, but if they're not sure what's there, they won't go into it. Now there is a fix on that. And you've seen me use tulle. That is my favorite thing. I've been using it forever. I used to work in a fabric store when I was a young girl. I knew all about it. So you can wrap your containers with tulle on the outside because they get their nails stuck and then they will back away. We're going to get into details on all this because I'm going to get a video up on squash bugs, how we can get rid of that. The big thing with you is you've got to decide what is your pest. Now we also have deer that roam through here. I have found that our deer are lazy here in Southern California. So if they come through and I drape tulle on top, they will mosey on by and leave my tomatoes alone. But if I don't cover it, they will eat it. So tulle has worked for the deer as well. This is why sometimes you don't know until you start what's going to bother your garden. And this is why I'm also using dog kennels now, because that's going to be the fix for I think, pretty much 99% of our problems. But that's another video for another time. Today I'm just talking about things that can be a pest. Possums, they do once in a while get into things, but very rarely. And skunks are another one, like rabbits. Though they can climb, they're not the best of climbers, and they don't generally crawl into your containers. So my favorite are totes on chairs or totes on planks, or we've taken a ladder and we put that across. Gary's got that in his garden. There's a lot of ways just to elevate your garden and get rid of these pests. Here in the bird garden, where they come in and feed, the big thing with them is they're going to eat some of my greens. But I'm growing so much in here that I can afford to let them eat some of it. The biggest pest in the garden really with the greens would be aphids. But then by bringing in seed eaters, the insect eaters see it safe. They see water features I've got here. So they come in and they take a bath. They look around, see all the seed eaters here, and they start looking for insects. We have a good mix of insect eaters of all kinds, especially warblers. Oh my goodness, and wrens, love them. And they will come in and eat all the tiny little insects. So this works out very well for me. Plus it's to my enjoyment to be able to watch them. I'm gonna just cut in here really quick. This is the middle of December. We're close to 75 degrees and it's morning, and it's a very unusual winter for us because normally during the holidays we're all bundled up. So it's really bringing in a lot of birds, and birds are still nesting in some instances, like I believe the spice finches are that are introduced here in the United States because they're bringing in new babies. But going back to our pest control, set up your garden and work with one thing at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. The whole idea of gardening is to make it fun. You want to have a good time. If I move too much, they all leave because I am here. You want to have a good time with your garden. And don't worry if something gets taken out by birds or critters or something. That's your new soil. You're not going to throw anything away. You're either going to compost in place by pushing it into the soil where the plants are growing, or throw it in a bucket that you designate for yellowing leaves, brown leaves, or plants that got eaten in the middle of the night. And when you're ready, you start to fill up another container using that. And that's Mother Nature's way. Nature creates its own, as many people call it, compost, which is the correct term, but a lot of us call it soil. Nature's creating new soil every second of the day and night. As leaves fall and fall on top of each other, the microbes, the earthworms, and everything underneath, including animals walking on it and breaking the leaves down and the branches and everything, or if something perishes, is crushing it into the ground, and it all becomes our new soil. So we can create that too, just as easy. Do I buy potting soil? I do, and I'm very careful these days what I buy, because a few years ago, I bought some off-brand name soil from a grocery store. And when I went to planting it, to my dismay, it had persistent herbicide in it. Now, I didn't know at first what type it was, but being that it took 2 years till I could grow in it, and I kept it and put it in a couple totes to experiment, by the second year, it started to allow plants to grow. And now I can grow whatever I want in it. But you don't want to do that. I'm not endorsing Miracle-Gro because there's a lot of great products, Dr. Earth and Kellogg's and so many other products out there, potting soil you can buy. But I will say that Miracle-Gro, being one of the cheaper, more affordable ones, and I use the potting mix in the yellow bag, it's cheaper. I've never had a problem with persistent herbicide. I have had a problem with the cheap bags you can pick up at dollar stores. Some yes and no, it's a hit and miss. Because every batch of compost made, no matter where it's being made, is different. It's not the same. It's not like you make hummingbird food, which is 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar and 1 cup of water. Your compost could be anything. It could be grasses off a golf course that's got persistent herbicide. It could come out of somebody else's garden and they don't know what they've been spraying with, and it gets in there, and if they don't test it, which costs a fortune, and you end up with that batch, you'll end up being set back in your gardening. So a lot of times if you're having an issue with plants growing, it may be the soil you're using. I even had free soil from a garbage company that was giving away compost that I had to shovel back with Gary and get rid of it because, again, persistent herbicide, because they broke it down, they gave it away, but it had something in there that would not allow plants to grow. I know people that got it and they were excited with it and they put it out in front of their house because they didn't want weeds to grow and it killed everything. So I'm really passionate towards Miracle-Gro because of all the years I've bought it. And, you know, even here when I started gardening right in this bird garden, I've never had an issue. So I can say they must test their soil. It's a guess because I've never asked them. But if I ever find the bag not work, believe you me, I would tell you. And again, from there, I only use that on the top because now that I've got all these leaves and matter and bird poop and all this, I'm making my own soil every day. All I have to do is bend down on the ground and find some nice, loose, fresh soil, shovel it up, put it in a pot, and grow some propagating plants that I'm doing. So you're going to make your own soil as you grow. Now, in the beginning, when you're brand new, you probably won't. You'll have to maybe go somewhere and rake up some leaves or see if your neighbor who's trimming their lawn, they don't spray it or treat it. You could try that. And it's good sometimes to test. Put some peas in there to grow or beans or whatever you want. Sprinkle some seeds in there and see if things grow. You're good to go on that. But the pests, we will have to deal with that individually. The cheapest, easiest way, and I will get into this as gardening season gets bigger and bigger, for me is Tulle. 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 It's a fabric. Now, if you go to the fabric store, it could cost you $1 to $2 a yard. That's a lot of money. And don't kid yourself, I have bought it that way too. But I have found some great prices and I do put it in my description underneath. So you would have to go to the description, which I typed in, and then type in more if it doesn't show everything, and you will see the link that you could go to it and see it. I buy the turquoise because it's the cheapest. It's under $10 for 40 yards, 54 inches wide. The average person starting a garden will only need one. Free shipping, you can't beat it. You want a different color, a dark green, a black, or red, maybe something that's gonna stand out. It might cost you a couple dollars more for the bolt. So that's up to you, but I contacted the company and asked them if they can leave the turquoise, and they have left that one. They must have a lot of it, I don't know. There's turquoise, there's an off-white. I think there's 3 of them that they leave at just under $10. You'll have to click through all the different colors and pick the one you want. I really am pleased with this company, and you're not going to get it any cheaper. If you were paying $2 a yard, think of how much that would cost you for an entire bolt. Let's say $1, 40 yards, you're going to spend $40, but at the store, like I said, it could be $2 a yard. It'd be $80, and here you're spending $10 for 40 yards of Tulle. Tulle will save your plants. Keep in mind that many of the plants we're growing do not need to be pollinated, especially if you're trying to grow greens. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, collard, anything like that, lettuce, cover it. Keep your insects out and keep your birds out, and you're going to have all of the greens you want. Tomatoes, you can build something with Tulle around it because tomatoes are pollinated by the wind. So are peppers. So there's a lot of stuff you don't have to even worry about. And if you have to hand pollinate, we'll get into that. And that would be for your squashes and different other plants. You can hand pollinate that if you needed to. But again, everybody's got their own issue that they have to deal with. Sometimes it's nothing more than the neighborhood cats getting into your garden and doing you know what all over, and you don't want to eat that. I wouldn't either. That's when you can get yourself an enclosure, and I have found those dog kennels are a dream, and we're going to get into that because that dog kennel that I'm setting up, it will get rid of all kinds of pests, more pests than you can ever even think about. But again, that's a different topic. Today, I want you to tell me what pests you're dealing with, what your concerns are, and what I'm strictly going to do is give you my opinion. I have studied, researched, and worked with animals my entire life, probably longer than many of you were alive. So I can give my thoughts and ideas on what will work, or at least what we can try. But you have to leave your comments on that. Tell me what you've done that has worked for you. I've heard all kinds of stuff, sprinkling around cinnamon and hot pepper. Well, that's going to wash away. Putting oil out. I'm very leery on oil because we have a lot of hummingbirds and we don't want the oil to get on them. So there's so many things we can do that is non-toxic. Now, bird netting, let me get into that really quick. Bird netting you can pick up at a lot of the dollar stores as well as your garden departments. It has larger holes and it will take out your birds. In other words, they get their little tiny legs stuck in there, and the more they try to pull, the more they get stuck, and you will come home at night sometimes and find a bird that's perished by being stuck in it all day in the sun. I do not use bird netting. I do not endorse it in any way. In fact, I would ask you not to use bird netting. Again, I can't tell you what to do. That is up to you. Tulle, on the other hand, is so fine that they don't get stuck in it at all. They land on it, they climb on it. The birds don't mind it at all. I have never to this day gotten a bird stuck in Tulle. So Tulle is, I would say, 99.9% safe. It's safe for a lot of critters, except for your insects that can't get through it, or at least most of them can't. That's why I find it safe. So tell me what you think you'll be dealing with, or what you have dealt with, because some of you have told me, I'm done, I'm throwing in the towel, I don't want to garden anymore. That's a shame. No, 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 I don't want to hear that. My goal in life, and Gary's, is to get everybody to garden. I'm not selling anything. Oh yes, I designed some t-shirts. You don't have to buy them. I love artwork. That's another thing I do. Art, photography, all that. So I did design some t-shirts, but I'm not asking you for that. I'm asking you to garden. Health-wise, it's so good if we can garden something, anything, parsley, lettuce. It's easy, but I will give you a big warning here. Once you start, and once it clicks, and you figure out how to keep those critters out that were bothering you, well, you'll be gardening for life, and your garden's going to get bigger and bigger, because that's just the way it works. So I hope I've given you some ideas on all that. Think about it. Let's think about what we're going to garden. And the only thing I would get early, even though it might be early for some of you to garden, is seeds. If you know there's certain things you want to grow that you like, get the seeds as soon as possible, because a lot of times they run out by the time gardening season's here. Otherwise, there's still plenty of seeds. You can go to all your garden supply centers, Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, Walmart, your local nursery, Armstrong, anywhere you want to go. They all have seeds. You'll be able to find it. So you won't be without seeds for gardening. And as far as whether you're going to buy plants, you can do mix and match. Buy some so you get started at the right time with your plants already going, and then start the seeds, whether you start them inside or outside. So we're all going to garden, right? We're all going to get something growing. We're going to bring our kids in the gardening, get them involved, get everybody. This hobby, which is not even a hobby, it's so important for us to get nutrients from food that we've grown, is for all ages. 2-year-olds garden, 100-year-olds garden. We can all garden. Can't bend? Get your containers off the ground so you don't have to bend, so you can sit and garden and enjoy yourself. But we're going to work on pest control. We're going to work on a lot of different things, and we're going to work as a community together, because just by me talking here, we can all read the comments underneath and see what other people have tried and see if it's worth it for you to try that. So with that, have a wonderful day. I'm getting back into the garden, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye. Oh my goodness, the only thing I don't grow is birdseed. A little. Never enough. But I so enjoy the birds.